Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good morning and welcome everyone to another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. Thank you for listening to all of our listeners out there and Happy New Year. It's early in January 2022 and we're stoked to have Adam Lampinstein on with us today from the Hayden. Adam, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Hey man, we're super thrilled to be able to talk to you today. And I know we were just talking earlier, you've had a pretty hectic holiday season. Adam was telling me that they don't close, they just stay open and keep rocking and rolling. So we're excited to hear about the Hayden and kind of your backstory. And with that, I'll just toss it off to you, Adam, if you don't mind, just to kind of give a little feel for what you're all about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Myself, probably like a lot of people, kind of found your way in this industry from other places. Kind of grew up, worked at a bagel shop in high school. Both my parents owned their own businesses. My father was in commercial real estate. My mother actually owned a catering company kind of out of our house. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, went to college, University of Kansas, and I studied advertising, journalism, moved back to Dallas, worked in an ad agency for about 4 or 5 years, graduated college in 2001. So right before 9/11, so the economy was in a crazy place as it kind of has been, several times since then. And just kind of, worked in advertising for a while, just kind of fit and feel as my calling. I always wanted to kind of do my own thing, work for myself. And so I just decided, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go to culinary school. So I moved to Austin, kind of a midlife crisis at 26, I say. So went to culinary school because I kind of wanted to learn about the business part of it, really more than the food. And I really obviously ended up, really enjoying the food, took it very seriously, and actually ended up working in Austin for a handful of years, which is an amazing city to work in. I mean, it's blown up a ton since then, but it's always been a very, very cool city. Yeah. Great food scene, great people just really willing to try new stuff. A lot of people have traveled a lot. So it's people kind of push the envelope a little bit there and have money to spend. So there's really cool concepts. My sister actually went to UT, studied business, and was living in El Paso, Texas, with her husband, who was in the Army, and he was about to go to Iraq. So I went to visit her. We're like, let's open a restaurant together. So we opened up a restaurant together called Ripe Eatery. It's still there. So we had it for about 7.5 years. Sold it, and then she ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, where she owned a couple restaurants called Stella Taco. Her husband did wine, actually, called Flat Brim. It's a wine company. And I moved to San Antonio, where I had met my wife, was from Ciudad Juarez, across the border from El Paso. She got a job teaching in San Antonio. So it brought us to San Antonio. And I kind of just always knew I always wanted to have a kind of a cool diner. I've always had a knack for old school kind of stuff. I've always been an old soul kind of, and just wanted, and I'm Jewish. So I kind of wanted to always merge the old school diner aesthetic with kind of a Jewish delicatessen-y vibe. Matzo ball soup, potato latkes, those kinds of things. And I got a couple small kids, and I just kind of wanted a kind of a family-friendly place that didn't mail it in as far as food was concerned. Just a really well done kind of concept, and just kind of ended up finding a great location and kind of hit the ground running.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's a pretty strong story, and you're still young, but you've already done so much and had additional restaurants or previous restaurants before this with your sister, and now you've got this one. You got any partners in this one, or is this one all yours?
I am flying solo. So it's without risk, there's reward, risk or reward. I put up a lot of risk. Let's hope the reward pays off at the end, but it's looking that way. Thankfully.
Yeah, well, everything on the website looks fantastic. For those that are listening and not viewing, website address is HaydenSA.com, and I didn't mention, but that's San Antonio San Antonio, Texas, which is where the essay is coming from. So y'all go check them out on the web. Looks like you can get on the wait list. You can do gift cards. Menus are there. Catering, online ordering. If you're in that area, be sure you go visit them and get an order out. So there's a plug.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've always been a big design person. And I think, as a small restaurant, which I are, like, don't look small online. Online, you can make yourself look as polished as you can. So yeah, it's always been very important. The aesthetic is, people go out to eat. The food's one part of it, but the design, it's a package, the whole package, I think, when you're building a concept. So I've worked real hard to kind of look like I got my stuff together. Yeah.
And so tell me about that. I didn't really prep for this, but I've been curious lately, talking about different concepts and stuff. You mentioned you wanted to have that Jewish vibe, and I mean, how hard or how difficult was it to create? Well, first off, did you have the concept first or the location? And then, kind of how did that evolve?
I think the concept's taken several pivots, let's say. Okay. I think when I first wanted to do it, it was more of a diner with more of like a Southern diner. Before I kind of ended up, I had about 3 deals fall through. So I definitely will say, be persistent, stuff's going to happen. I was very, jaded. This isn't going to work out. San Antonio is a weird city with just location. There's, pockets of places with the economic kind of background, which I wanted to be in, and the kind of the people I was trying to target, and in some areas where it just wasn't a perfect fit. So it took several years to find, and a couple of deals got right to the last minute and just kind of fell through. So, which actually ended up being a blessing in the end. Usually a lot of those times it is a blessing. You can't see it at the time, but I ended up finding a better location, had, better visibility, better parking, all those kinds of things. So it gave me actually more time to kind of hone in on what I wanted, I think. I've always wanted the diner, but I knew I needed a hook. I didn't want to just be a diner. There's chain stuff here, diner stuff, and diners mean different things to different people. If you talk to a diner, someone in New Jersey or New York, and then someone in, some small town, Texas or Carolina, they mean different things. Diner kind of represents the community it serves. So I wanted to come out of the gate, what is my diner representing? And so I kind of pivoted from the Southern part to kind of like, what do I want to speak to? Like, what do I have to give, I guess you could say. And I think there weren't many places in town where you could get kind of what I grew up eating. And I think a lot of the diners, you think of New York, a lot of the immigrants came to this country and they had restaurants, and, if a Greek immigrant opened a diner, there was a lot of, there was the gyros and spanakopita and a lot of the Greek dishes you see.
Yeah.
And so that was, this is kind of what I wanted to give, is kind of, my Jewish background, and still make it very approachable. I was very cognizant to not call it a deli. I wanted it to be a diner, because we've got a full bar. And as a lot of, I'm sure your listeners know, and people in the restaurant industry, food margins are slim. Having alcohol on your menu really, really does help you, as far as profitability. So I knew I wanted a full bar. I knew I needed a full bar to make this work. So I kind of wanted to curate a diner, but more of like a finer diner, and then kind of have a Jewish deli inspired menu. So I kind of took a few pivots since then, but I'm happy I landed on kind of the Jewish vibe, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And how long have you been open now?
We opened in October last year, so just over a year and a couple of months.
All right. Well, congratulations. You made it through the first one. Now you gotta hit number 2, right?
And it was a heck of a first year at that. It took about a year to build. This wasn't a restaurant space. It's about 3,500 square feet. Was not a restaurant space before. It was actually an original Luke Casey cowboy boot store in the 80s and 90s, and it's been a couple other retail spots. So it took about a year to build out, and who would have known at the end of that year that COVID and all this stuff would have hit. So it's been a challenge, but us restaurant people, we're used to that. It's never easy. You just got it's just a different challenge, different day. That's all it is.
Yeah, that had to be kind of scary for you in the middle of kind of doing the build out, and I guess you'd made your commitments, and then COVID hit, and what do you do? And looks like you just persevered.
That's what you got. He had no other choice. I had put in all this money, and I had started to hire people, and they wanted to work, and I ripped the Band-Aid off, and we got to get going. So it actually worked out a little bit of a blessing, if I say, just because different mandates in different states. We had a 50% occupancy, so I was able to kind of start it a lot of restaurants open up and they get overwhelmed and people don't come back because the service is bad and they, aren't ready for all these people and the staff is still training and whatnot. So we got lucky that we can kind of ease into it a little bit, maybe a little slower than I would have hoped, but it actually ended up working out. We got to train our employees real well and kind of figured out what worked and what didn't work. But people were pretty patient with us because they're, happy that, we were here.
Yeah, that I've noticed has been a big thing, that patrons who are coming to restaurants are just happy to have a place to go, a place to get out, a place to enjoy
Right.
people and good food and a good drink, and it means a lot that and even today, that they've had to be more patient as well, because we have some struggles in the industry with staffing and other things that that can hurt our level of service. So and I'll come back around to that, but kind of going through that whole getting it started thing, was there anything that surprised you or jumped out at you as a a challenge that was either really difficult or that you weren't necessarily thinking of at the get-go?
I mean, I think we kind of bootstrapped my first restaurant. It had already been a restaurant before. So it was, wallpaper, paint on the walls, that kind of thing. This was a ground up. So I think having to go through the construction process, from a place without a kitchen at all, building that up, I think it's just construction, delays, things that are really commonplace, probably people in construction, people that are used to doing it. But as someone who isn't, something that's supposed to take a month takes 3 months, or you're waiting on permits, or you're waiting on supplies, or things like that. And things always cost. People always told me it'll cost you twice as much and take you about twice as long as you think. And you're, yeah, sure, but no, that is definitely the truth.
Yeah.
So you got to be capitalized, well, to kind of open up. No one ever hits their opening date. I mean, that's pretty much, it's a joke when people think they're going to open up in a couple of months. I mean, that rarely happens. So I think you have to have enough to kind of weather the storm a little bit, and then just kind of be able to roll with the punches a little bit, which is hard because you've got a date of how you got to hire people. You got to start training. You got to start pitching guys in early. And you have to carry a lot of people for a while before you can open. You just kind of do the best with kind of, mitigating, those problems. But yeah, I think construction and then staffing. I mean, the same problem we're having now with staffing. It's hard to staff a restaurant when you're not busy because employees make tips. So at the beginning, it's hard to hire and keep good people if they're not making good money. So that's always a concern when you're new.
Yeah, and anything special that you had to do to kind of get it staffed up, especially from that front of, on the front of the house side? Did you offer incentives or kind of?
Yeah. What we actually did, I think, and we actually are still doing it to this day, is that we did a tip pool. So we actually look at the tips in aggregate from the day, and we have a kind of little spreadsheet put together where the bartender gets so many points, the servers get bartenders will get, say, 10 points, and then the servers will get 9 points, and support gets 2 or 3. Everyone's paid a little different hourly wage, but they split up the tips pretty evenly on how many hours they work, which is great. So you have a slow lunch but a busy dinner, or vice versa, or someone, we need people to work on a Tuesday or Wednesday where it's not as busy as it is on a Friday or Saturday. So it kind of helps even out. So your highs and lows of when you're a server, you're used to that. You might have a day where you do amazing, and then you have some days where you walk out of here with virtually just your basic hourly wage and maybe a little more than that, which isn't really fair to people. So I think, you might take a little bit of hit if you get a great tip, but you're also those days when you're, might be a little bit slower, or the weather isn't as great, or things like that, tip pooling, I think it's weeded out some people that are good servers that don't really want to share their tips, but it creates a really good kind of we're all in this together kind of vibe. And so I think even, when COVID started, it kind of helped keep everybody at a level playing field. Everybody kind of knew what they were going to walk out of here with. And whether you work a slow shift or a busy shift, if it was a busy day, everyone kind of helped out in those wins, and everyone kind of helps run the food for somebody else or bus a table, because every tip is everyone's tip. And it's kind of helped really create a family vibe here. I think that they've wanted to keep. I've offered to change it, but they still want to keep it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome that you're giving them options and kind of let them pick which way they want to go. And I do like that from a standpoint of service, because, like you said, each person's helping the other, and you're giving a better guest experience overall.
That's a big thing, I think, for owners or managers, right? It's the employees' money. So I think it's really important. You got to get them to buy in on it, And I think that's a very, very important, and we can go into that later, is kind of my management philosophy, but it's, I'm nowhere without my employees, obviously. And so, it's a democracy around here. I mean, it's their money. I don't want to decide how they share their money. I mean, some people might not like it, but what's the majority want to do?
Yeah.
And just kind of keep that conversation going. We're not fixed on this forever, because I don't want to lose good people too. So let's see what, you all want to do. And they've time and time again said, no, we like it the way it is. So we're keeping it for now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, have you been able to keep your labor costs kind of where you expected coming in, or has it kind of slid up on?
I mean, we've been lucky. I mean, labor, like everybody, I mean, we're paying more for every position, especially in the kitchen, than I've ever paid before, which is great. I mean, I've always said I want to pay more than a basic living wage. I think COVID and everything now is it's been a reckoning in the industry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I know with, a lot of the, the Ubers and the DoorDashes and all these other, Amazon, people without, degrees, people that, more in service industry kind of stuff, or warehouse jobs, there's a lot more options now for them. And it's hard to compete with the Amazons and the Ubers and things like that for it. So I think we want to push it as far as we can. And at the end of the day, it's a business, and, the customer's got to pay for it. I mean, the margins in restaurants, as you all know, are slim. So, I got to be able to pay my employees as much as I can, but at the end of the day, it's a business. So it's like it's a constant, balancing act. Before, food costs are up, labor's up. I can raise my prices, but there's still a ceiling on what you can raise your prices to, on what people are going to pay.
Yeah, you can't get it so high, and
exactly.
At some point you start losing sales or losing people.
That's exactly it. So it's a constant juggling act. But value, to me, it's a point I wrote down here that I always say. Value is very, very important. So customer will pay if they know they're getting value for their dollar. So your portions have got to be fair. And if you're raising your prices, you can't, you can't, reduce the portions or start getting an inferior product and then raise the prices. So if you got to stick to your guns and your proteins are higher, and you got to raise a little bit more, you got to still deliver that same quality, because customers going to know. People go to a lot of restaurants, and consistency is not what it used to be, and the prices are higher. I'm not going to go back. So you got to prove it to people that you deserve to be, asking the prices that you get.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with you. And it's really, as a patron, it's almost a subconscious thing. You get done, you look at your bill and you're like, yeah, that was a little pricey. But if it's good, it really doesn't matter. You just,
I used to have a quote that you forget what you pay when the food hits the table.
Yeah.
The food hits the table, you're like, it looks okay, but I only paid X amount. Like, no one thinks that. When you get the food, you want to be a little bit impressed. Like, you go out to eat because you may get something you can't do at your house. That's what I always say. So you come to a restaurant, even if you're making a burger or you're making a salad or whatever it is, that better be a beautiful salad. It better be dressed properly. It better be all those little things that restaurants do behind the scenes. Things are seasoned, and people, that you get when you can't make it. You want to be impressed. And that's how you tell your friends about it. If you go in and you're underwhelmed, you might come back. You might not say something to anybody, but it's, you got to set yourself apart. That's really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, let me ask you this: Are you heavier food than alcohol, or kind of what's your mix there?
Yeah, we're about 80-20, 70, maybe 70. We're pushing closer to 75-25 food to alcohol. And I'm pushing, we're working hard to kind of increase those sales. I think we started off at about probably 15%, then we moved it up to about 20%, and now we're about 25%. And we're trying to bring in some more local stuff. So we had a lot of local beers, local wines, have cocktails, and try to be at an aggressive price point where, our cocktails we're really trying to stay about that $10 price point. 10 and under, we think. Obviously, our brunches have been off the charts lately, which is great. People love their mimosas and their Bloody Marys. Yeah. And we do a lot of, you can do mimosas with a bunch of different juices, and we do a Bloody Mary that's really, really good. And that's one of those things, value. Mimosa $6, a Bloody Mary's, $9, $10. And, customer can get a drink. They don't, want to overindulge, but they want to have a nice little cocktail with their thing, but they don't have to break the bank to do it. And that's kind of important too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you guys able to have any kind of live events or anything like that? Or I haven't seen the space myself, but just curious.
I mean, it's a catch-22. I've been fortunate enough to be so busy. on the weekends. I just don't have a spot. When we first opened and we were at about 50-70% occupancy, I couldn't fill the whole dining room. We actually had a couple DJs playing some old R&B, music at brunch, which was totally fun. And it was great. But unfortunately, I don't have the room right now. I mean, they bring their speakers and you can't sit, people know unless you have a stage in a dedicated area, you're taking, butts out of seats. And and we're already on a wait as it is at brunch. So maybe during the week, we'll start thinking of some trivia. I've been, toying with the idea to add trivia and things like that. They don't take up a ton of space, but it's also engaging for the customer and, kind of your slower Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night kind of thing. We've been thinking about maybe this coming new year, some fun things to try.
That sounds awesome. Well, speaking of that, let me ask you about marketing. I think I had that on my little prep sheet, but if I didn't, sorry about that. What are you doing? What's working? What's not working? What do you want to do more of?
I mean, it is all come. I tell you what, when I had my restaurant before, I mean, it was, in 2003, 2004, 2005, when we were starting out, and it was really when Facebook, I think, had just started. There's obviously no Instagram, social media and TikTok, all this stuff was, hadn't even thought of yet. We did billboards, right? That's what we did. And I lived in El Paso. That's what worked, but that's not the game here anymore.
Yeah.
It is. And I learned this in marketing, what's called TOMA, top of mind awareness. You got to hit people consistently. When you're trying to think where to go eat, there is just so much competition now for, dining dollars. I have a marketing company, a local marketing company I use. And I mean, we dedicate a lot of money to Instagram. I think she does some TikTok videos, Facebook, does well. You can also geo-target. So I think when you're first starting out, the local, 2, 3, 4, 5 mile radius is the most important to me because I'm a diner, right? I'm an everyday kind of spot. So I want to make sure that everybody within a couple miles for sure knows I'm here, and then start kind of increasing the size of that circle, that radius. So I think we've been able to do a really good job of target people locally, and now we're kind of expanding our reach out, but a lot of it is social media. And I mean, the beautiful thing is you make your space beautiful, you make your food beautiful and taste delicious, people will take those pictures and they'll post for you. So a lot of the organic stuff is free. You just got to set the space for it, and I got to do my job to deliver, like I say, good value, make sure the plates are pretty, make sure we do our job, and people will spread the word for you. So that's been helpful. I think Instagram and Facebook, I could try to touch a lot of tables, and that's what they say. My friend posted, or my friend was here, or I saw the influencer post or whatnot. So that's been probably easiest way. And I'll tell you what, you get this so much bang for your buck. I mean, I used to pay, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month for billboards, which in some markets, it helped. It's still a good medium to use, but you can get a lot of miles for that dollar on social media, I think, and target where it's being seen.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the lesson most restaurateurs have learned over the last several years, and most folks are investing most of their time and effort on the social media side, and there's still traditional options that are out there and available, and then doing things like this now, podcasts and TikToks and all these other forms of media really seem to be kind of taken over, and as the primary medium for restaurants to let people know what they're all about. And if you go the wrong way and you're not delivering value and great service and great food, then those customer reviews will sneak up on you, and they'll let people know.
That's right. Now you could fool people once, I say, right? But I don't care if people come in once. I want you to come back.
Yeah.
So when we have busy days, I'm excited that we're busy, but I'm always like, but did people have a good time? Just because we're getting food out doesn't mean we're succeeding.
Yeah.
I want them to come back. They got to have good experiences. You have a bad experience, you tell 10 people. You have a good experience, you might tell 2 or 3. So we're thankful we have good reviews. Like all restaurant people, we got a love-hate relationship with Yelp. But you got to take it with a grain of salt. If people are, a lot of people are saying something's wrong, something might be wrong. A few people, people's tastes are different, and you take it and you move on. But you got to kind of know what people are saying.
Yeah, and is I guess you kind of probably offloaded that to your marketing.
They do a lot of that, but we try to get up. I have, I have Google alerts. So anytime someone leaves a review on Google,
You see,
I see that, or they'll email the restaurant with a, positive or negative review, or they'll Instagram now is the way people respond to a lot of stuff, thanks for coming in. How was everything? And they'll kind of give you their feedback and whatnot. So there's definitely several ways to kind of engage with ownership or management.
how about on the technology side? Now you came up in COVID, so as you were kind of building everything out on the technology front, POS, online stuff, QR codes, virtual or not, having QR code menus and all that kind of stuff. What all did you deploy?
We did. I mean, we're using Toast, which is been a blessing. I think that's that company's growing tremendously, and we do their online ordering. You can order on our website, which, like a lot of restaurant people, order through restaurant people's websites if you're able to, because obviously the fees are much better than trying to go through the the Uber Eats, the DoorDashes and whatnot. And there are people that use those other third parties because they get points and whatnot. And I get that, and it's it's an important part to help drive revenue as well. But I think having a really good go back to your original point we talked about, have a strong website. Because when you first want to look at a restaurant, I want to look at pictures, right? I want to see what their menu is. And if you don't have great pictures, it looks like your website was just kind of slapped together. You don't look like you're here to play ball. Like, you look like you're here to battle with the big boys, the chains and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think, having a strong website, we had to, we did QR codes, but honestly, we put menus in sleeves, and so we're able to wipe them down. I mean, I hate going to restaurants, and I'm on my damn phone all the time, like everybody else, right? When I'm at a restaurant with my family and my kids want to grab the phone, no phones, put the phones away. So when I have to pull up my phone to look at a menu, I'm like, not again. So I really do. I get the COVID thing, but if we're able to have a menu that you can wipe down, or throw away or whatever, like having a physical menu is nice, because I'm just tired of looking at my darn phone all the time. So we did that at the beginning, but now we have, like I said, physical menus and sleeves that we wipe down after every guest. Ordering online, we take out food, curbside. You can call in, we can take the food out to your car. We've been toying with the idea of, through Toast, they have I think it's called like order and pay, or order and go, I think it's called. So you can be able to order at your table. We don't use that yet, but that's for outdoor patio dining. I know people use that a lot, where a server can have a larger section because people can look at the menu and order, from their phone and pay from their phone. We haven't done that yet. But I think, ordering online, curbside, QR codes have helped. And then just having a really engaging menu. So when people call, they can, having it all explained very well on the website, so it kind of mitigates. And then also, we have a reservation system, like you mentioned earlier on the website. Staffing is such an issue. If I can get people to go to the website to add their name to the wait list or make a reservation, it saves having to answer the phone or have to, do those same things people can kind of do themselves. That's also really important.
Yeah. And you mentioned third party a couple of times, or once or twice, but are you using all of them, or have you pared it down to one or two?
Yeah, I think we use 3. I think I've got DoorDash, Uber Eats, which integrate through my POS, which, there's an additional fee, but it's really nice because when you sell out of something, or you're not offering something, you don't have, it is just a real pain, obviously. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners have known when you try to go order something and then they call you back that they're out of it. Because it's real hard when you're busy and I'm selling out of something. They got to, go to 3 different portals, update 3 different menus in the middle of service and say we're out of something. And I know it's frustrating for a customer when you want to order something that maybe we had yesterday as a special, but I forgot to take it off the menu that's online. So when it's integrated with your point of sale, when you're out of it, you set it out of it for your employees to know, in the restaurant. It also reflects your online ordering. It's worth that, I think, because I get the frustration for a customer doesn't know what you have and what you don't have. If it says you have it on your website or you have it on their menu, you have it. But from a restaurant standpoint, I mean, I have a line out the door and we sell out of something. I don't have the time to go and tell the 4 different or 5 different apps that I'm out of this.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the biggest advantage of having that integration with your POS and third-party apps, is not having to update all these different menus, because inevitably something will slip through the cracks. And
something will slip through the cracks. And as you know now, with supply chain issues, and we're not able to get the same stuff we were able to get before, and we're changing things and all that kind of stuff. It all plays into it. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in restaurants. So the more things you can simplify a little bit or automate, the better.
Yeah, I agree. And you nailed it on the head there with the food shortages and food costs that most people are dealing with. You got to have a menu today, or I think it's at least certainly helpful to have a menu today that's adaptable. And
Correct. Yeah,
you
that's
can
right.
put things on and take things off depending on what's available. And then you need that integration all across all your systems, because all it takes is one person looking for something that you don't have online and they're mad, and they're
That's right.
leaving
Yeah,
a
no.
bad review.
And they'll call and let you know.
Yeah, yeah, they don't waste any time letting you
No,
know.
no.
So, for all our listeners out there who are food folks, if you're leaving reviews, don't forget to leave the good ones.
That's
In
right. That's
addition to
right.
the ones that need some improvement. We like them all and need them all, so keep them coming. Oh man, it's amazing just kind of being in this space and how busy and how much energy it takes to kind of keep things rocking and rolling. There's a lot of folks who want to be in the business but kind of haven't been able to pull that trigger yet. Any words of wisdom or pieces of advice you would share with someone kind of thinking of stepping up to the plate and opening their own business?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, I think definitely one is, I mean, location is very important. I mean, obviously understand your concept, think through your concept very, very well, not just the kind of food that you like to cook, or, I mean, it's a business, right? At the end of the day, you've got to make money.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, just understanding, leases and, is your landlord give you a, TI money, which is tenant improvement allowance? And then what are the triple nets, which obviously the, common area maintenance and the taxes and all, I mean, just kind of what are your all-in costs? And then how much staff are you going to need to staff the place up? And then like we talked about before, I mean, if, COVID hits, are you able to go counter service or what? You got to be able to pivot. And I think, a lot of people are like, this is my concept, this is what I want to do, but you've got to really, if you can't get the location you want, and you got to move somewhere else, is that same concept going to work exactly? And then you got to, work in like to-go pricing on packaging. I mean, definitely the financial part is one thing. I mean, there's a lot to think through, and there's no easy way to get there. Just think really having a really good pro forma, doing a lot of research online. I mean, thankfully there's tons of stuff now to help you kind of think through that. But I think at the heart of it is like, what is your concept? And I think, I like back to my marketing and advertising days, like, what is your unique selling proposition? Like, what are you doing that I think, you don't have to, I opened up a diner, right? But I know I needed a hook. Like everyone needs a little something on there, whether it's, you're in a city and you're doing like, I listened to one of your podcasts before of a lady who had like a New Orleans kind of restaurant, right? That's like her thing, or people that do a Southern thing. Like, what is your menu item? I think it's also important. People want to latch onto something, and people always are going to come in. What are you known for? So I think thinking that through, pastrami, that's our thing. Like we're known for our pastrami. We do a pastrami that I don't think anyone else in town does the way we do it. We do it, we brine the brisket's brined and then it's crusted, it's smoked, and we steam it. I mean, it's a long process, but that's what we're known for. People want to come in, and you got to be known for something. So I think when you're trying to plan out your concept, you can't hit everything out of the park. Everything's got to be great, but you got to have some things that you are known for, because that's what people want to latch onto. So I think you got to really, really think. People, like I said before, you go out to eat to do something you can't do yourself at your house, right? And people are cooking more. People, with COVID, people are good cooks. People, have access to cooking shows and do all that. People obviously don't want to, the people hate doing the dishes, and people want to go out to eat to get an experience. So I think your concept has to be full circle, right? You got to think of the decor. You got to think of the lighting, the music. Your price point is really important too. Value. You can have great things on the menu, but what can you charge for it? And are people willing to pay what you can charge for? Everyone wants to have the best of everything on the menu and make everything from scratch. But you got to look at the back end as like, labor is very expensive. So I think, I guess I know I'm all over the place, but I think, I mean, there's just a lot, we could have a 5-hour conversation on this itself. I think just really thinking through, it's a business. And I think a lot of restaurant people, a lot of like really foodie and food people want to make everything from scratch. And it's been a really hard lesson for me to learn, but you've got to pick your battles. I can make everything from scratch, right? But do I have the staff, and do I want to go through that process every time? I can roast tomatoes, but if there's a product I can get that serves that same purpose. Like, does a customer care that every single item on every single thing is made from scratch? No, not really. The stuff that needs to be made, and we make all of our sauces, we, do all of our meat. I mean, all those, like, the important things are there. We make our own bread? No, because it's cost prohibitive to make our own bread, so we found a really good purveyor, for the bread and for our bagels and for a lot of our things. Like, we have a lot of local people that's what they do best. So we try to employ people that, are the best at what they do. Yep. And we try to be the best at what we do. And we can't do everything. Because trust me, when everything on your menu is made from scratch and your prep guy calls in sick, or, something happens, and, a customer would rather have a really good product consistently than, sorry, we're out of half our menu today because a couple guys called in sick. Yeah. Or, those kinds of things. I think it's picking your battles is really important on that. You can't do, just don't kill yourself, or you're going to be here for 24 hours a day and just be frustrated every minute of it. Yeah.
Which happens enough on its own. So.
I'm here enough, and I'm frustrated about every minute I'm here. We don't do everything from scratch, but we do, it's our heart and soul is in it, and we don't mail it in, and I can stand behind everything we do. And I think, just put an honest effort through whatever you do.
Yeah, I think that is great advice right there, and stuff that our listeners and all of us can take to heart, no matter what business or industry we're in. Although we're focused in the restaurant space, you've got to have your heart and soul into it, and you got to be able to stand behind it. So it sounds like you guys at the Hayden are really rocking and rolling in San Antonio. So congratulations on having achieved your first year. And kind of as I head toward wrapping this thing up, I want to do two things. One, make sure that I didn't miss anything that you wanted to talk about, and then secondly, ask kind of what the future is looking like. Have you been here long enough yet to start thinking of the future? So that's kind of my final two questions. Anything we missed, Adam?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think one thing I wanted to mention is just, I think we didn't get there because you and I both love to chat. So I think I got long-winded on a few things probably, but just have a good staff. I think, you can't do this without a good staff. And I think find people that do, someone always told me a while ago, you find people they don't have to be good at everything, but kind of find out what they're good at and try to let them excel at what they do. So I got some good managers that are great at some things and some things they're not so great at. But if you have good people, as I grow and I start thinking about the future, so how I can use these people at what they enjoy doing and what they're great at, and not try to put a square peg in a round hole kind of a thing. And just surround yourself with a good team, because, I want to hire people now that will be with me in 10, 12 years. I don't look at anybody, even servers. I'm not trying to just fill places. I want to have, I am really good at my staff and I treat them like family, and I expect the same. And so I think as I do look to the future, I kind of look at who do I have and what are they good at, and how can we, and then also looking at the reality of labor, right? I think whatever I do next, I would love to, I've always thought, build a concept that's scalable. Number one, I don't have to open up another one just like this. I honestly think the next thing I do, I would love to open a cool little, diner at a, cool little hotel downtown or whatnot. And I think maybe opening up a commissary kitchen where you get some cheap land somewhere. You've got a staff that, are able to crank out the food. And then that way your footprint for your lease, and having to staff up a huge dining room and a huge kitchen at each location, which is more of a challenge now and a lot more expense. You got to find something that's more scalable. So I think looking into more delivery, more catering, just we're looking at the reality of labor. I mean, it's not going to get any easier. And people, will pay a little bit more for their food, but it's like we talked about before. There's still that ceiling, because how do I be smarter about my business and still deliver an amazing product, but on the back end get smarter about how I get it there? Not create the wheel in every single location I have. Can I have one space where I've got a great team of cooks and chefs that are cranking out consistently delicious food, delivering it to maybe the restaurants, where I don't have to have that same staff every single place.
Right.
Kind of a thing. And then I'm able to have those other product lines. I can maybe, get in the grocery store with some of my sauces and pastrami or whatnot, or ship, there's Gold Belly or ship things or things like that. So trying to find scale, I think, is really important for my future and for the profitability of the business. Building a really good brand is number one for me. For the first year, I was more important about delivering a great product, make sure I'm making money on it at some point. But I think a lot of people at the beginning, they pinch every penny, and a customer gets, is gonna get there. Like a customer will trust you and they'll pay more for you, but you got to prove it to them at the beginning. So you got to make sure you got a good product out there. You're talking to customers, taking their feedback in, pivoting if things aren't working. And then eventually, like, a lot of these big businesses, right? They don't make money for a few years, but they figure out what works, and then you figure out a way to make money. So you can't be unprofitable forever, but you got to, I think, really make sure you build your brand, number one, and then figure out how to make it work. But you got to, people, you can make money, but if nobody cares what you're doing, or they don't, you're so cheap with what you're doing, but I'm making money, they don't care about that. They want to feel like they get a good value when they go out. And it's a cool concept,
Yeah, that is great advice. Actually, I was taking notes as you were talking, and a lot of great points there, especially with the the having kind of in mind the need to be able to be scalable and adaptable. Commissary kitchen is an awesome way to do that. If you can feed several restaurants, maybe even do some ghost kitchen concepts from there, and catch on to the online delivery audience out there with some different options for food. I mean, you're thinking out of the box, and you're thinking about future and growth, and that's what's important for all of us to be thinking about is, how do we take that next step forward, so that we can continue to grow, and even more importantly, grow our people, which you mentioned on the staffing side. They need opportunities. So if you're sitting still and not creating much of a path for their careers, then it's a lot harder to recruit them. You're going to have more staffing problems. You're going to have to pay more, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you got to let them know. And this is one thing I'll say. Last thing about that, I think, is I've really tried to give my managers and letting know where the path is for them. And then I want them to sit down with their people and let them know where their path is as well. So if you're, you should always be worried, looking for your replacement, I guess, as they say, right? Not being afraid of it, but like if a manager wants to grow, then someone needs to take their spot. So I think always grooming those people. And then your hourly line guys, like, I want more for them. I want them to have management if they want it, right? Some of them don't want it, but you need to have that conversation with them now that, hey, keep showing up on time, keep working hard. I want to reward you for that. Because I think I've worked at a lot of restaurants and a lot of people that everyone's so busy, no one ever sits down with their employees. You don't have to give them raises all the time, right? Sometimes you need to let them know, have regular scheduled reviews with them, let them know where they stand, and that, where they're, that money's going to get there for you, and I'm working on it for you. And I want you to know, keep working hard, and I'm recognizing your effort. Don't wait too long, because they might leave you by that point.
Yeah. And that doesn't take very long to do.
Yeah. They'll be people in this day and age, they can make 50 cents more down the street, and they don't think they're appreciated where they are, that they'll move. There's no, people don't have that same loyalty that they used to have. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And in today's marketplace, that happens a lot, and you don't want to fall into that. So some great advice, for all our listeners about communication and making sure your team, your employees, all your people are in the loop as to what you're doing, what your thoughts are, what your plans are for not only the business, but for them personally and their careers, is a critical part to be able to holding on and keeping those employees that you want to keep.
Yeah. Well, no, that's it. People want to be appreciated. It's a hard industry. They're not making, people, it's tough, but they work hard, and they should be appreciated for it, and let them, give them a path forward if they want more. Absolutely.
And again, for all of our listeners out there, we're talking to Adam, and out of the Hayden in San Antonio, Texas. Adam's the owner, the chief bill payer, the dishwasher. I like that.
I'm a heck of a good buster too. That's right. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, he can bust a table with the best of them. So be sure that you get down if you're in the area and check them out online or on premise. It doesn't matter. Just go and enjoy a meal with these guys, or a good brunch, and some of those cocktails, mimosas and Bloody Marys sounded pretty darn good too.
All right, come get a cup of matzo ball soup and a pastrami sandwich. We got it.
Ah, yeah. Don't forget the pastrami. Hey, well, again, Adam, I want to wrap it up, but I want to thank you for being here today, and sharing your knowledge, your experience, kind of everything that you've done and learned over the years, and most importantly, in the last couple with this with the Hayden and getting it underway. Thank you for sharing all that with me and our audience.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed having you, Adam Lampinstein, once again from the Hayden. We appreciate you being here, and for all our listeners, we appreciate you joining us for another awesome episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. And we look forward to talking to you on our next show.